Hello, I'm Steph, aka Literati Medium. Today I'm jumping on the bandwagon and I'm going to do my top reads of 2021. Now, just so you know, these were not books that were necessarily released in 2021. These are just books that I read in 2021. Now, I thought I'd start off this video a little bit differently and give you my reading stats from 2021. So as of today, I have read 29 books. So I did beat my goal of 24 books for 2021 by 5 books. So my most read genre, which I'm sure doesn't surprise anyone, was fantasy with 17 books. My least read genre was nonfiction at 2 books, which I'm still calling a win because I usually read 0 nonfiction books. I am tied between Sarah J. Maas and Claudia Gray, having read 3 books by each author this year. And my average book rating was 4 stars. I'm gonna give you my top 5 reads of 2021 that I read, and the first one is the only 4-star read on this list, and that is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. Ariadne is a princess of Crete, whose father is a tyrant who rules by using her half-brother, the Minotaur, to control through fear. When Theseus, the Prince of Athens, comes to defeat the Minotaur, Ariadne must make a choice that will change her life forever. Those of you that have watched my channel from the beginning know that this was essentially the first book that I read since starting my BookTube channel, and I really loved this retelling of the Ariadne myth. I think this also kind of worked as a jumping off point for my reads this year, which definitely had a very feminist lean to them. I will say that I do tend to gravitate towards female authors, not because I don't enjoy male authors, but because I actively want to support female authors. This story pulls you into Ariadne's perspective very deeply. I appreciated that you understood every single choice she made. Even if you didn't agree with it, you knew exactly why she made that choice. There are just walls of dialogue sometimes, but when you think about the oratory nature of Greek mythology, it bugged me a little less, but had this been in any other story format, it would have kind of driven me crazy. The next book on this list is, to nobody's surprise I'm sure, Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. When Ike and Buddy Lee's sons, who are married to each other, get murdered, Ike and Buddy Lee set out to find out who killed their boys and get revenge. And this quest will have them confronting their prejudices about each other and their sons. So I've talked about this book several times this year on my channel, but this was my first 5-star read. It definitely is not my normal genre, but I'm really glad that I read it. The character voices are great, so if you appreciate a book that has really unique and distinct character voices for each of his characters, you're going to enjoy this book. The pace is very fast, which I appreciate. I like books that tend to have a cinematic feel into how the story unfolds. And of course, with a story of this nature, there is great character growth from beginning to end for Ike and Buddy Lee. So the next book on this list is actually a book I haven't talked about on this channel yet. It will probably be in my wrap-up, but that is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Chanel Miller was first known to the world as Emily Doe, the victim of Brock Turner. Her letters stunned millions after Brock was only sentenced to 6 months in jail after sexually assaulting her. In this book, she reclaims her identity and tells her story. So this was one of the 2 nonfiction books that I read this year, and it absolutely blew me away. I highly recommend the audiobook because it's read by Chanel Miller. So when she's reading the book to you, you really feel the emotions behind what she writes. I also really enjoyed the prose. They felt real and visceral with just enough flourish to keep them beautiful. Now, it can be a disheartening read, but I would highly encourage anyone who wants to understand rape culture and victim blaming to read this book. My runner-up for the best book that I read in 2021 was covered in my 24-hour readathon, which you can check out, here, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Linus, a solitary man, is a caseworker for the department in charge of magical youth. He gets asked to observe an orphanage where all the charges are very unique. More so than just your typical average magical youth. It's his job to determine whether or not these children will bring about the end of days. So I love this book from beginning to end. I've talked about it pretty recently, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. The prose are very whimsical and it paints a very colorful picture in my mind. I also think that this book would make such an amazing movie. The characters are really lovable and I found myself laughing out loud, sounding a little bit like a crazy person several times when I was reading the story. The romance in there also feels so pure and genuine. It's two lonely souls who find each other and they complement each other in a very down-to-earth way. If you want a book that tackles really serious issues but in a hopeful and optimistic way, I highly suggest this book. Before I get to number 1, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and of course comment and tell me what your favorite read of 2021 was. And I'm sure this doesn't surprise anyone if you've been watching my channel, but my number 1 read of 2021 was Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray. Earth and Genesis have been at war for a very long time. Noemi is a Genesis pilot who is trying to help her friend when she lands on an abandoned ship and finds Abel, a highly advanced artificial intelligence. Her training tells her that she needs to kill him, but her instincts are telling her that she needs him to survive. So this is a first book in a trilogy. I have not read the other 2 books. Part of that is this book was perfect for me from beginning to end, and I'm a little scared that reading books 2 and 3 will ruin that for me. Abel is probably one of my greatest of all time characters. He manages to be very naive and kick-ass at the same time. His growth throughout the book is also a pleasure to read. I definitely laughed out loud a couple times because his thoughts can be so absurd but yet feel so genuine. You absolutely believe 1000% that that is what he is thinking. Noemi, while less of an interesting character to me, is still an interesting character. She really goes on this great journey about learning how to be vulnerable by the end of the book, and I really appreciated that. I found the pacing of the book to be really good. It doesn't drag, the action is placed well, and there's downtime when there needs to be downtime. This was one of 3 books that I read this year that made me cry, and we're not talking just like a trickle of tears. No, like I was crying. Come to think of it, the other 2 books are also on this list. I didn't think I was a person who liked to cry at books, but this list may have shown otherwise. Of course, please don't forget to go to literatimedium.com and sign up for your weekly premonition, where you will get all of my bookish content in one easy to navigate email. And of course, let's see what stories tomorrow brings.